Good morning and welcome to Bible study time. I'm not at Calvary Baptist Church. We went ahead and canceled, and you can see I'm at the blessed dining room table at our house with my Indian motorcycle shirt on. Anyway, we did cancel services yesterday because we are getting snow. They told us it would probably snow until tonight, and it's a very, very fine snow, but there's a lot of it. There's a lot blowing through the air. So we'll see how long it lasts and what we get, and then I guess we'll go and clean ourselves out. So, anyway, it's good morning, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the Sunday school lesson just because that kind of gives you the closure to this unit, and it also gets you the maybe up keeps you up to date, and then lets us start in our Sunday school next week with a new unit. So our unit has been looking forward to Christmas, and we started back in December 1st, first day in December, and we've been looking forward with hope, with peace, with joy, love. And last week we looked forward in worship. Today we're going to look forward with expectation. And as you can imagine, it is expecting or the expectation of the second coming. And so that's kind of where we are going today here with our lesson. Actually, it's taken from Matthew 24, Matthew 23 and 24 and 25 are kind of good opportunities for us to hear from Jesus about what he has to say of his second coming and what he has to talk about with his end of time type of message, and we can read through it and we can maybe get a few clues about what Jesus is talking about, but can we really find all the answers? Well, no, we can't, but we can get some encouragement out of it, and that's what I believe we're to get, not only encouragement, but as the lesson says, to look forward with expectation. So, as we celebrate the coming of Christ, the first Advent in December, and we celebrate Christmas, and we go through all of that, we can't help but know as believers in the back of our mind that Jesus is coming again, that there will be a second Advent, a second coming. And how are we going to celebrate his arrival? Well, when he came the first time, some knew it, some understood it to a degree, but lots just kind of overlooked it. They weren't really a part of it. But when he comes the second time, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess, everyone will know that Jesus is Lord. And so when he comes, the goal for us as believers is to not only have done what we should be doing to glorify and honor him, but that we would be in expectation and preparedness, that we would be ready for him. Okay, so that's where we begin today. And again, Matthew 24 and 25, kind of based on a couple of questions that the disciples raised. Jesus had been trying to get them up to speed and help them figure out exactly what was going on, what was going to happen, how things were going to take place, and concerning the future. And so distinct questions is what the disciples had asked him. One dealt with the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the temple, that sort of thing. The other had to do with his return and the future kingdom. And so while they may be different, they are yet a lot alike. They do overlap some. So he was telling them, or at least trying his best to answer in terms that they could have a better understanding of. The destruction of the temple, that is something that's a little more objective. It did happen in 70 AD. The and the fall of Jerusalem, of course. The second coming is a little more unknown, the timing wise anyway, but we can trust that God is in control and that He will bring it to pass as He sees fit when the conditions are right. So we're just going to jump right in, and our first point is that His return is near. We may not always realize that, but we need to live in that expectation, don't we? That His return is near. So in verse 32, Jesus says to His disciples, learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its branch becomes tender and sprouts leaves, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, recognize that He is near at the door. Okay? And then in verse 34, it says, truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. So you learn this lesson from the fig tree. What is the lesson? Well, it's a lesson of nearness. It's a lesson of things are drawing close. He talks about when you see that the leaves are about to come out, and fig tree is a tree that not a lot of trees in Israel lose their leaves year round, but the fig tree is one of them, and it's one of the later trees to grow leaves out. So Jesus is saying it's going to be later in the season, not going to be an early time, but it'll be late in the season. And when you all of a sudden see that it's getting tender, it's warmed up enough, things are progressing in that direction, then you can know that it's about to sprout leaves. And once it does, then the figs will soon be ripe and ready to harvest. And so summer will be near. When you see all these things, recognize that He says He is near at the door. The texts, the manuscripts, when it uses that pronoun He, not all translations do it personally. Sometimes they say it, as in He, Jesus is near. That would be a personal thing. But as in it is near, well, that could be the second coming. But either way, it's the same result, isn't it? So it doesn't matter whether your translation says it is near or says He is near. It's really the same thing. He's at the door. So that's when you'll know, is when you begin to see things and you say, oh, maybe this is what this means. Oh, maybe we're getting closer to something. Oh, the leaves are going to sprout on the fig tree soon. Things are beginning to happen. Okay. And then He says, truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place. Now, what is He saying there? Well, He's saying that the generation that is alive with Him at that time is going to experience, for certain, the fall of Jerusalem. They're going to see it. It's going to take place. And so 40 years down the road, Jesus died. If He started His earthly ministry around 30, which might have been 27 or 28 AD, might have been crucified around 30. 40 years later, 70 AD is when Jerusalem fell and when the temple was destroyed. So, you're talking 40 years down the road. Well, I think back, Ellen had an anniversary this past week, and she's been married 42 years. And so, 40 years goes by pretty quickly in a lot of ways, doesn't it? So you just think about that time passage and that time frame. And Jesus said, I'm not going to pass away until all these things take place. Then He throws in this nugget: heaven and earth will pass away. That day is coming. But my words will never pass away. In other words, He is saying to them, I'm telling you the truth here. Not only am I the truth, the way, the truth, and the life, but I am the source of it. It is coming from me. And the words that I say are things that you can count on. You can know that it's confirmed, that it is true. And so he is telling his disciples, as best as he can describe it, that not only is Jerusalem going to fall, but you're going to also see similar things happen when he comes again. Okay? So then he goes on to talk to them about how his return will be a surprise. And that's the second part of this. His return will be a surprise. We look at verses 36 through 39 that say, "Now concerning that day and hour, no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, except the Father alone. And as the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. For in those days, before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah boarded the ark. They didn't know until the flood came and swept them all away. This is the way of the coming of the Son of the way the coming of the Son of Man will be." So he tells them nobody knows the hour. And, that bothers some people. If Jesus is really totally omnipotent, he knows all things, then how can he say he doesn't even know this? How can he even put that down? And so that bothers some people. Now, I hope it doesn't bother you, because remember, Jesus emptied himself of who he was. He became a man. And while there were certain things that he picked back up along the way, while he was on earth, he still allowed his manhood to become the key factor in who he was, because he used his favorite term for himself, the Son of Man, and so he only allowed himself to pick back up the parts of God that he needed in order to be the sacrifice for the sins of men. I believe that is true. And so you might even say, does he even know now? How do we know? Did he get all that back when he got to heaven? Did he get all that back when he was resurrected, victorious? He ascended back to the throne? How do we know? We don't, but we do know that it's not up to the Father to not reveal things that are for your best interest. He revealed to Jesus all that Jesus needed as a man. And so he reveals to us all that we need as a man. Do we need to know? Well, no, not necessarily. But we do need to be able to see the signs. We do need to be able to know that something is coming. And like the people in the days of Noah, they heard the message. Noah preached. He told them, look, a flood is coming. I'm building this boat. And they laughed at him. They scorned him. They mocked him. But he said, look, it's coming. It's going to rain someday. And when it does, you're going to be wishing that you had repented. And did he get any followers? Well, his family. And we're not even totally sure how true his family was at sometimes to his prophetic utterances. However, they did go and they did plug in with him, and they were spared. There was a remnant that floated away and then repopulated the earth. So, in those days before the flood, Jesus said they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. In other words, they were going on with life. You and I kind of go on with life. We go to bed at night when it's time to go to bed and we're tired. We set our alarms to get up the next morning so that we can do whatever responsibilities we have. We go about life, don't we? We think about, what do I need to pick up at the grocery store this week? I'm out of milk. I've got to have some bread, or, do I have something for sandwiches? What are we going to do? And how do we go on about life? We look at the gas gauge on the car and, in 2 days, I'm going to have to fill it up or we're going on a trip. Oh, we better top off the tank before we leave. We do those kind of things. We just go about life, don't we? And that's what they were doing, to the point where they were living their lives and they were watching Noah build a boat, and kind of wondering, what does all that mean? And then he started rounding up animals. That's even crazier, right? You know, we can watch the world go by and do the things that they do. Um, and we can get caught up in it because it is the way things are. This past week, a tragedy occurred in our nation. Well, we have tragedies often, don't we? They happen frequently. But we had one on New Year's, New Year's in the night, and we woke up to it. I doubt many of you were up uh, doing a New Year's thing. You might have been. But we woke up to a bomber in New Orleans. And, while that is distant from us, I don't know anyone who was even in the area at the time personally, but we know that it was people and it was Americans. And for them, the New Year started off bad. And for some, it's going to be a while before it gets better. Um, just going about their lives, just doing their thing, and something tragic, something evil has interrupted it. And so we have to be prepared, and we kind of need to keep our eyes open. We need to be ready for things that might happen and not allow them to destroy our faith or to keep us from being where we need to be. Things that just can happen. And that's what it's going to be like when Jesus comes. It'll just be his nearness, and then he comes. And so um, he says that's the way the coming of the Son of Man will be. It's rooted in prophecies of Ezekiel and Daniel, especially. And Daniel uses the term Son of Man. It's kind of a poetic form. And that's why Jesus adopted it for himself, because he didn't want to be seen as more divine. If anything, he wanted to be seen as the perfect sacrifice for mankind. Um, so his humanity was his messianic mission, was to be perfectly human and to live in obedience to the Father. Um, Talks about that this is the way the coming of the Son of Man will be. That Perusia, he will be coming, and it's a future visible return on a day that starts out normally, and there may be those in the world that wake up to it. We just need to be prepared, and we do need to be ready, which brings us then to the last section. So get ready. We do need to be ready. And I think we're maybe at a time in our um, in Christendom, in the Western world, in the United States, where we perhaps haven't been preaching honest readiness as well as we should have for several years. We do need to be preaching that. Look, there's only one distinction. There's only one difference here between one person and another person, and that is, does one know Jesus and does one not? And so Jesus then throws in a couple of illustrations. He says, then two men will be in the field, one will be taken and one left. He says, two women will be grinding grain with a handmill, and one will be taken and one left. Therefore, be alert, since you don't know what day your Lord is coming. But know this, if the homeowner had known what time the thief was coming, he would have stayed alert and not let his house be broken into. This is why you are also to be ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. So get ready. The family of Noah, they built a boat with him. They did all those things, and then they got in it. And then it happened just pretty much like Noah said it was going to. It's an unbelievable kind of image. Um, I don't know of anybody in my neighborhood who's building a boat or doing anything like that. But I do think that we need to take note of these kind of illustrations and to take them to heart. So then Jesus says, two men working in the field. One is taken, one is left. Two women grinding at the grindstone. One is taken, one is left. So he said, therefore, in light of all this stuff that he's been teaching them about the coming or about the answer to those two questions, when is Jerusalem going to fall? How's it going to happen? And when are you coming again? In answer to those things, then Jesus talks to them about being alert and being ready and not being off their guard. I think that's a message that if we want to see revival in our nation today, beginning with this year, we need to begin to preach being ready. That's kind of been on my heart, that we need to start preaching, get ready, because readiness is what matters. I think about the people that I know right now who are needing to put their faith in Jesus, and they're close. There's a few people that I know who are close, and I certainly don't want to manipulate them in any way. But I also want the Spirit of God to be able to work in their hearts and lives and to remind them, as I'm sure He is, that if you're not with Jesus, you're going to be the one left behind. And the left behind concept is one that has been, I would say, utilized a lot, not so much as a fear tactic, but just as a attention getter. I do think it matters. Okay, so he said, be alert because you don't know. You don't know when the day or the hour is coming. So be as ready as you can be. Then he gives an illustration, and throughout 24 and 25 of Matthew, he gives lots of these little kind of illustrations. And so this one is, if the homeowner had known when the thief was coming, if he'd kind of known when to expect him, he would have been ready. He would have been waiting for him. We live in a day when you can have almost everything you need delivered at your door. Everything. And what's interesting about it is the delivery companies, no matter who you use or what's going on, there's a way to track it, and there's a way to know within the hour when it's coming. So because especially through the holidays, there's a lot of those door people who have stolen packages and things like that. It's kind of good to be there when a package comes. We've been blessed through the years sometimes that if a big package comes and we're not home, the neighbors might kind of be a little curious about it, and they might say, hey, I took that package and I've got it for you. When you get home, I'll give it to you. I just was afraid somebody might come and steal it. Somebody might see it, and it looked like a big package, and it might be important. So, it's good to have neighbors like that, isn't it, who are watching out for you. Well, we live in a day when we can check that, and we can know who's delivering what when. That's a way, if we knew the thief was coming, we'd sure be here to get that package, wouldn't we? We wouldn't tempt them in any way to take what isn't theirs. And that's the way it is with the coming of Jesus. We live in a day when we can be ready, when we can be prepared. We've been given all the access tools. We've been given all the things that will help us be prepared and ready. And we've gotten them through Him. We have been told that it is by faith that we're saved through faith. It's not of ourselves, but it's a gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. We've been told that the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. We've been told that when we repent, When we believe in our heart and we confess with our mouth that we can be saved. And so we've been given the tools, we've been given the reminders of what it takes to be prepared. We've been told that um, we shouldn't uh, follow the sins of the world, but we need to follow the fruit of the Spirit. We need to live in the Spirit of God, which will produce good fruit within us. Against such things, there's no law. Um, and so we can be ready. We can get ready. Jesus said then in verse 44, this is why you also are to be ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour you did not expect. That's a great thing for us when he talks about being ready. That readiness is just being on guard, just making sure that you are alert, making sure that you're aware, making sure that when it does happen, it might not be something you're thinking about at the moment, but it's something that once you see the sign, you will know, oh, it doesn't catch me by surprise, because I don't like to be blindsided. I don't like to be caught off guard. It causes me to sometimes react in ways that I don't think are very pretty, or in ways that I don't like. And so I think perhaps we're all that way. So if we can keep from being caught off guard, that's a big thing. So here's just some thoughts. Are you obsessed with the second coming of Christ? Is it the only thing on your mind? Are you thinking, oh boy, Jesus could come today? Well, that's a good thing to think. I don't think that it's something we need to dwell on every moment of every day. And there are those groups who have just gone and sold everything they had and then just went in a room and sat and waited because they knew he was coming that day. Uh, from one extreme to the other, the one extreme is we are so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good, and the other extreme is that we are so earthly minded that we can't even begin to think of heavenly needs and heavenly values. So rather than be enamored with the signs of Christ coming and the end of the world, why can't we just accept the truth that even if we don't know when, we can still make sure that it doesn't catch us off guard, that we can think in the right way, that we don't have to speculate, is it today or is it whatever? And you know, all those people who study their charts and look to the stars and all that other stuff. And I believe that God will do it when he is ready, and only he knows when the time is right. God the Father knew when it was right to send Jesus into the world the first time. We can trust him to know when it's right for the Lord to come again. Task for you and I is to be ready. Well, I'm out of time. God bless you all. And next week we start a new unit. And the new unit will be entitled The Heart of Worship. That'll be a good series, I believe. There's 6 lessons. That's kind of what we usually do. There'll be 6 lessons on that, and I'm really looking forward to it. The Heart of Worship. Hopefully, we'll get all the snow cleared off this week, and winter will kind of move on a little bit, and we'll be able to be in church next Sunday. That's my goal anyway. All right. So hope to see you then. God bless y'all. Bye.